DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in to a special edition of Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo, Jim Senecropi, Kyle Evans here with you. As we alluded to 8 days ago, we'd be coming back whenever the Bills hired their new head coach, and here we are 8 days later promoting offensive coordinator Joe Brady to the head coaching role. So we'll offer our thoughts on that, talk a little bit about what the expectations might be, coaching staff, what it might look like, and whatever else comes about within here. But first, I think a couple more of our sponsors for today before we get rolling. Finger Lakes Partners Insurance. Get the insurance you need from the people you know at Finger Lakes Partners Insurance, the Finger Lakes Insurance agency for a home, auto, or business. You can get a no-obligation quote today at fingerlakesinsurance.com. And GoNet Speed, the future of connection is here, and it's fiber, made for how we live and work today. GoNet Speed fiber is faster and stronger than anything out there. You can check availability in your area, as well as plans and pricing at GoNetSpeed.com and get ready for fast and reliable fiber internet straight to your home. All right, so the news broke about lunchtime today, noonish, when every NFL insider said Joe Brady promoted to head coach of the Buffalo Bills. It's a 5-year deal, reportedly. And the first person I thought of, Kyle Evans, because I don't know. I think we were all kind of, I don't know about fearing, but my first thought is just like, Kyle's got to be in such a weird spot, and we didn't hear from you for a little bit, and I know off air we were talking and going back and forth a little bit before I went live, Kyle, so turn it over to you. Your initial reaction here to Joe Brady being promoted to head coach.
Well, I definitely wasn't happy. He probably was one of my last choices. Didn't really like what he did all year offensively, with the Bills' offense, the play calling and stuff. And I just thought there were several other candidates that they interviewed. They interviewed 9 candidates, Joe Brady being the first one. And to me, now that I look back on it, Joe Brady was basically going to be their pick all along because Josh Allen was sitting in on the interviews. He loves Joe Brady. He does love Brian Dable too, but he's been with Joe Brady now for 4 seasons. So it just feels like this was a move that Josh Allen kind of made, and they wanted to make Josh Allen happy. And, no matter who was going to take over the job, there was going to be a lot of pressure because right now it's Super Bowl or bust. You could have brought in Bill Belichick. It's Super Bowl or bust. You could have brought in anyone. That's just where we're at right now. It's a tough job, a lot of pressure, but I still will say, though, I think Brandon Beane has more pressure than everyone else. After getting the promotion, after having a bad roster, after getting all the blame. So ultimately, the coach is going to have a lot of pressure, but Brandon Beane's going to have more pressure.
Jim, when I walked in and told you the news, I don't know if it was necessarily like 5 seconds, but there was about what felt like 5 seconds worth of silence before you were just like, crap. And I feel like, I think for me and you especially, that's the same reaction we more or less had to the news.
I think whether you wanted McDermott to stay on or not, when your franchise or college team or favorite team has a coaching vacancy, it's kind of exciting because no matter what you thought, who knows, what could be next. And to hear it was Joe Brady is just deflating. So if you're the Bills and you fired McDermott because despite getting right to the brink, having 7 consecutive playoff appearances, being 13 seconds away from a Super Bowl, you're making this move. So that must mean that since the goal is Super Bowl, you're going to bring in somebody that has experience in an organization that has gone to the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl. But instead, you're hiring internally. So what are you changing when Terry Pagula went into the locker room and said something, realized that something had to change? Nothing really has changed here. I mean, it's kind of baffling. With that being said, he's your coach now, so get behind him, and it's up to him to prove everybody wrong that's saying that that he shouldn't be the choice. But you're trying to get a franchise to the Super Bowl that's already an elite team in the league, and you're going with a 36-year-old first-time head coach. So it just doesn't make any sense at all to me.
It's like another shot at Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott's been here, as you mentioned, 9 seasons, 7 playoff appearances. They've been to the divisional round in 6 straight. They weren't looking for a coach to help them win. Sean McDermott had them winning. They just couldn't get over the hump. And now you're going to a guy that has 0 head coaching experience, even at the college level, and of course really young. And the Bills had 2 flawed things last year: their roster and their play calling. And both of those guys, Brandon Beane and Joe Brady, got promotions. Again, another slap in the face to Sean McDermott.
Yeah,
Wild.
So there shouldn't be a change. There really shouldn't be much change other than maybe, the defense really came up big for the Bills plenty of times this year. I don't know how the defense is going to look under, Joe Brady. We don't know how Joe Brady's going to manage the game from the sideline. It's just like again, you're trying to go from like the 4th best team in the league to the 1st best team in the league. So even a guy like Mike McCarthy would have made more sense, than Joe Brady, who's obviously with the Steelers, or a proven winner like Kurt Signetti, or I don't know exactly who was available out there, or even Kubiak, who is in the process of maybe winning a Super Bowl in Seattle.
Yeah, and I share that thought, especially on the Kubiak side, because let's just be honest, the Bills had a late start in this process compared to the other teams that had openings available. And at this point, I would have just held out for Kubiak as it stands right now. My thoughts are very similar to your guys'. My issue with this, it doesn't stem necessarily from Joe Brady. I'll get into some of his background here quickly in a moment. But in a press conference that was held a week ago, the main sticking point was more or less the problems were from within. And you promoted from within where your alleged problem was. To me, that makes no sense. None whatsoever. And that's where I have the hang up on this. It's not so much, I don't think Joe Brady itself, it's just that internal thing that you said you had the problem with and you went to it. It's a head scratcher.
And, Joe Brady might turn out being the best NFL coach of all time. Yeah. You're going to have to, if you're a Bills fan, get behind him and hope for the best, moving forward. But I don't imagine if they hired John Gruden, or there's so many guys. That's why before we knew it was Joe Brady, there was the whole world was the oyster here, and then you find out it's Joe Brady, and you're like, oh, all right, well, I guess we'll wait for the Joe Brady era to begin / continue, next September.
And to be fair, though, Joe Brady has actually been a hot name on the coaching market the last 2 years. Several teams have brought him in for interviews, including the Ravens, who did it twice. The Ravens were seriously considering Joe Brady as their head coach. So teams around the league, owners, GMs around the league, actually do, I guess, have a lot of confidence in Joe Brady, because they wouldn't be giving him all these interviews and year after year.
Although, how many interviews without getting hired? I mean, maybe, there's something that he didn't do in those other interviews that where the Bills were like, okay, sounds good, you're hired.
The funny thing is, too, on the Bills coaching searches, they didn't bring in a single one of those 9 candidates for a second interview. Again, that tells me that first interview with Joe Brady was it, but they were just bringing in other guys because they have to as part of the rule. Right. You have to interview the Rooney Rule. And I think, again, Josh Allen was in their ear saying probably Joe Brady or Brian Daboll, and I think Joe Brady ended up, of course, being their choice because he's been here. And Brian Dable was there, but it's been several years now. So I don't know. I think this is all a Josh Allen move early, and I think there actually is now pressure on Josh Allen too a little bit because people know that, he probably picked this guy.
But I mean, at the end of the day, Brandon Bean picked him, right? Like at the end of the day, Brandon Bean's got the final say.
Yeah, but I agree. But I do agree with what Kyle's saying though, in the fact that
They
like
treat him like
this is very much so a Josh Allen hire in the sense of like they're clearly
they don't want to piss off their quarterback
Yeah.
now that they've already pissed off the fan base.
right.
Could be. Could be. I mean, we know that Allen, is fond of Brady, obviously, but yeah, I just Josh Allen didn't hire the coach. The Bills did. So
And there's also no official word yet. Doesn't just because Joe Brady was promoted to the head coach doesn't mean he's going to call plays. Joe Brady can still bring in his own.
that's what I was wondering about.
So we haven't heard word yet. It's early yet, but he could bring in an OC. But now that Dable took the job in Tennessee, I thought Dable was still maybe a possibility for that role. But I don't know who else really. I can't think of a guy right now that's even available because again, they started the process late.
I just can't believe, like I said, that they're trying to get to the most elite level of the NFL when they're already at a elite level in the NFL, and they're going with a guy that's never stood on the sideline before during a game, and never managed, a roster of offensive, defensive players, and it's crazy. It seems like a big chance when. I don't know. Again, the reasons they moved off of McDermott would not indicate that they would have gone with a first-time head coach.
All right, let's do a quick little rundown here for people who may not know Joe Brady from I'll just call it the Miami area growing up.
Pembroke Pines, Florida.
Yeah, the funny part is even if you go to his Wikipedia page, it
Hollywood.
has Pembroke Pines as Hollywood, and he graduated from Everglades, which is in Miramar. So, whatever. Spent a year at Air Force, transferred to William & Mary, where he was a wide receiver. Began his coaching career at William & Mary.
3 career receptions
Yep.
at William & Mary.
Yes. Yeah.
Who has a lot of coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, I was
Mike Tomlin
Sean McDermott.
and Sean McDermott, yeah.
So, either way, then goes to Penn State, was an offensive assistant at the Saints. This is where I got introduced to Joe Brady, was right here. He was the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach 2019 at LSU for one of the most historic offenses
Justin Jefferson.
in college football history. Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase,
Jamar Chase.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So that's where I got introduced to him. After that,
So I would like to be the the passing game coordinator for that crew.
exactly.
Jeez.
Then goes to Carolina, where admittedly things didn't go exactly great for him. Then
Fired.
Then moves to
Fired.
Yeah, fired the Bills as quarterback coach, interim offensive coordinator, and now head coach.
Panthers fired him.
Yeah. So that is the Joe Brady timeline of how we got to right now. I think at this point, Kyle, I'll go back to you. You mentioned right before we went live, because the next question to me really is like, okay, and we talked about it a little bit, what does this potential coaching staff now kind of look like under Joe Brady? Possibly have a little bit of an answer to that already on the defensive side anyway.
Yeah, with the promotion, it basically seems like the Bills are not blaming their offense for the last several years of why they've fallen short. They're blaming the defense, and it sounds like they officially are doing that as they're possibly going to hire Jim Leonard, who actually used to play for them for 4 years. He was a safety in the league. He's 43 years old now. Spent the last couple seasons in Denver as their passing coordinator. But from what I'm seeing initially from reaction is this would be a good hire. People like this guy. I don't know personally much about him, but I mean, can anyone be worse than... I shouldn't say that because, again, the rosters have been so bad, but can anyone be worse than Bobby Babich? I mean, Sean McDermott literally took over the play calling from him mid-season because he was doing such a poor job. And Sean McDermott actually did a good job at turning the defense around and getting enough out of them to, keep them in games and help them
Maybe
win
he'd come
games.
back as defensive coordinator.
Somebody said that earlier. Can Joe Brady hire McDermott back as a defensive coordinator?
I mean, anything's possible. Not to do apples and oranges, but Brent Pry, DC at Virginia Tech this year after being fired by Virginia Tech, so anything's possible.
Well, in normal organizations, you can have movement like that, but in the NFL, that's a highly unlikely scenario.
Yeah. The offense really, and Kyle, because you brought it up, right, I don't know if we'll see him do play calling And I don't know because he was interviewed. I don't know if a guy like Davis Webb kind of gets
That's right.
the look at the OC position now.
Josh Allen's best friend too.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's whatever Josh Allen says.
Yeah.
So if Josh Allen wants Davis Webb, they're going to get Davis Webb.
Yeah.
But it's early yet. Maybe later we'll hear a report about if he's going to come in for another interview. But they
There'll be
did
a press conference at some point
Yes.
soon.
And if you're the Bills, let Terry Bagula read his statement and get him
Or
out
don't
of there.
even he doesn't even need to be there.
Yeah, he does not need to take questions. He's a PR nightmare.
Yeah.
He's going to see something crazy again, and he
Yeah.
can't help it.
I think it's possible that Pegula made a deal with the devil or something where like the Sabres can be good and the Bills can be good, but not at the same time.
Somebody tweeted that earlier too. The Bills and Sabres can never just be good at the same time and not have all the drama surrounding either one.
So now that the Sabres are getting better, maybe the Bills need to regress.
And I told Paul off air, Terry better stay away from the Sabres. Don't ruin what they have going.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Yarmo made a pretty good depth trade already, so
Yep.
we'll see how well that goes. Yeah, we've covered a lot already in a pretty short amount of time here, and the interesting part to me really does lie in this 5-year contract side of things, because in theory it shows that they're going to give him some runway here to a degree. Whether or not it actually plays out that way, I don't know. Like you said, Kyle, Pegula says one thing and does another, more or less. So I guess Jim, you said it as well, essentially. The expectation, I was going to say what is the expectation, but it's Super Bowl or bust, frankly, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the thing.
I don't know if this does that, though.
No, because even if, all the scheming and everything's great, for Brady and the Bills find themselves in the playoffs again, they're going to come into a game where he's going to have to go head-to-head against Mike Vrabel or Andy Reid, or any number of guys with, extensive coaching experience and playoff experience. And, he's 36 years old, first time. It just doesn't seem like the guy you go to when you're trying to get over the top now, like next year. He'd be a type of guy that might have been great coming in, when Josh Allen was coming in first year. I don't know. It's just like I said, the big thing with me is they're trying to win the Super Bowl, right? Get over that hump. McDermott's got him there time and time again. And so it would make sense you'd go with a guy who, has been there before. And, Joe Brady certainly hasn't been there before. He's never coached a single NFL game as a head coach.
And that's what makes this job so different from all the past years of what I can remember. Usually you don't come in with a quarterback like Josh Allen in a team that's win now mode as much as the Bills are right now, Super Bowl or bust. I mean, I guess you could argue the Ravens a little bit. Of course, they haven't gotten nearly as far as the Bills have, but they're in win now mode. They have a young quarterback still in the prime of his career that they need to start winning now. But if you think like the Titans job, you go coach the Titans, you're not going to even probably expect to make the playoffs. You just want to have a good year, develop your quarterback, start turning in that direction. This job is so much different. It's a ton of pressure for whoever you could have gotten. Like I said, Bill Belichick, who has all the experience in the world, Super Bowl winning coach. He's still going to feel the pressure if he were to be hired because it's Super Bowl or bust. Anything less, the fan base is pissed. No one's happy, and that's just where we're at.
Yeah, it would be fun to be able to fast forward to like October 1st after like 4 or 5 games into the season and see how it's looking and how it's going.
How the roster looks.
I think that's my point I was getting to is that, okay, Joe Brady, Sean McDermott, anybody, Brian Dable is going to be coaching this team. The roster needs to get better. And if the roster just does get better, then that alone should, have the Bills in a position to be, at least AFC conference betting favorites heading into the year. So how does that happen? How do they do that? I mean, wide receiver is the most obvious one. The defense, it's tough to bang on the defensive side of the ball too much because everybody's that's needed to kind of stepped up, but maybe a little more consistency in the secondary. Get guys that are going to be there, they're going to stay healthy, and um, but I don't know. Like Kyle, how do they get the roster better to the point where we're stopped talking about the roster?
That's the thing too. On top of that, their salary cap issue. They're one of the few teams in the league that has a terrible salary cap right now. They're not going to have a ton of money to spend. They're going to have to restructure contracts. I don't know if you guys saw it, but a few days ago, Dawson Knox was on a podcast. He said he's not even sure if he's going to return because he's owed like $8 million, and if they want to cut him and save money, they probably could do that and keep Dalton Kincaid. But there's just a lot of like roster moves like that where they're going to have to cut people or restructure their deals to even create space to go out for free agency. So I think really the trade market's going to be the Bills' best bet here in the offseason. And Brandon Beane's got to stop worrying about the draft picks. That's all he's done since he's been here. He doesn't like the trade, as we saw at the trade deadline. If he went out and got at that receiver, Jalen Waddle, Jacoby Myers.
Gave up some draft picks to get him.
Yeah, just he's gun shy.
Maybe Sean McDermott's still the head coach, and the Bills are playing, in 2 weeks.
Yep. So it's going to be. That's why I'm saying I think the pressure is actually more on Brandon Beane here because he also has to change this roster and make it better. But he's already starting way down with a bad salary cap.
It's both of them now. I mean, they've made it clear that okay, this is the Beane and Brady show. Like they've. I don't want to say they forced out McDermott. Who knows exactly how that happened, but clearly this is what Brandon Beane wanted, and so now it is, and they're going to rise or fall together. Yeah. If they come out next year, it's such a fine line. The Bills were like one loss away from potentially missing the playoffs this year, and so you think you're going to go in next year, things kind of status quo, except now you got a first-time head coach against a veteran who's been to the playoffs 7 times in a row, and that might not make a 1-game difference. If the Bills don't make the playoffs next year for the first time, like, my God, can you imagine? Mm-hmm. How the Beane and Brady and Pagula will get hammered.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of eyes on this team next year because there's a plethora of things now, right? But you have the new stadium on top of that with everything too, and the hype around that. It's one of those things where it's, I don't know. There's pressure on everybody, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, and there is no matter what in the NFL, right? Yeah. No matter what situation you're in, there's pressure to win. If you're expected to win, you start losing, tremendous pressure. Yeah. But man, McDermott really, under his watch, brought this team from a perennial laughingstock to one of the best teams in the league, and they didn't leave him on to finish the job. And they're bringing in Joe Brady, who played a part but he's only been there for the past couple of years, whereas McDermott was there from the start. It just doesn't make sense to me. But a lot of things in the world of sports and in the world in general don't make sense to me. Like I thought they made sense to me. Yeah. It's just some of it's bizarro stuff.
Yeah, especially to me on the offensive side of the ball. Like not to beat a dead horse essentially here, but like the Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady thing still sticks out to me because to me it just feels similar how those two kind of had a timeline, whatever, right? Like when you think about that first year of Dorsey was like, well, for the most part, pretty good.
They were 5-5, I think, when they let go of Dorsey.
Well, I'm talking year one though of Dorsey.
Oh yeah,
and same thing with Brady. His first full year was pretty great. And
he took over from Dorsey,
correct,
who was 5-5, and they won 6 of their next 7.
Right.
And then he followed that up with a statistically impressive offensive year.
And then this year was
another statistically impressive offensive year, despite the fact he had the leading rusher in the NFL.
But a lot of questionable stuff that you can pin to him. So. Well, I'm going to go try box here for a brief moment because I had a pretty rough oversight here on the William & Mary side of things involving the Bills.
Okay.
Trivia time. What Bills legend was the head coach at William & Mary from 1964 to 1968?
64 to 68?
Lou Holtz was his successor, if that helps. Probably not.
The Bills coach from 64 to 68?
No.
Oh, the William and Mary coach.
Yeah. Bills legend. If I say any more, it's going to give it away. This is how blatant of an oversight it is on my part.
Yeah, I couldn't even give you a guess right now.
Same here.
Marv Levy.
Oh, well, that would have been a good guess, right?
Pretty bad oversight on our end for the Bills' connection to William and
Yeah,
Mary.
that's
as well.
wild. There's a lot of NFL connections to William and Mary, especially for the Bills.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like that. You get pipelines going and you don't even know it. So, the tribe of Williamsburg, Virginia.
Yep.
All right. I don't know. I got nothing really fully else here. Parting shots from you guys here before we step aside for a little while here on Bills Weekly.
Well, over the weekend, the Dolphins also took the Bills' special teams coordinator, so they're going to be looking for a new special teams coordinator. Their offensive line coach, Aaron Cromer, who's done a great job, building the running game and helping that offensive line be so good year after year, has retired. So there's 2 coaching openings they have to fill there. We're still waiting to see, what they do at defensive coordinator. Are they going to bring another offensive coordinator? I mean, there's still several coaching moves that are going to be made here over the next couple weeks. So I guess just kind of watch out for them, and we'll see what their staff looks like coming up.
Yeah, and look forward to the press conference.
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
I feel like that's going to be a Friday at like 10 a.m.
Maybe. Hopefully before our show Thursday. Obviously, we got a podcast Thursday where we can continue this conversation and see what comes up over the next couple days. But we made our thoughts clear on it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but at the end of the day, what we think doesn't matter.
It's so early yet.
Yeah, and if you're a Bills fan, he's your coach now, so you're not going to want to spend all season bitching about him. Hopefully, there'll be lots of wins next year and a run into the playoffs, and maybe shock the world, Super Bowl champs, and Joe Brady then launches like a Hall of Fame NFL coaching career.
Yes, if they
That's the best scenario.
if they get to the Super Bowl under him, he'll be loved forever, despite how many people have attacked him the last couple years. But the one thing he's got to do: stop with the 1st and 10 handoffs to Cook
Up the middle.
and the
The
third down.
last drive of the game against Denver, like Pegula's in the locker room says he knew he had to do something different. Well, that guy was calling plays on that last drive, so nothing looks too different right now.
And the third down bubble screens, enough. Change something up. I mean,
Shakir averages 8 yards per screen pass, though. I was looking into that. Not that, it's not a good
got
look.
better later in the year.
But apparently, over time, 8 yards a catch for Shakir on those is pretty good. He doesn't always throw them to Shakir, but yeah, it's a kind of an enigma because we can bash on the things on the play calling and stuff, but statistically, the Bills had one of the best offenses in the league. Under Brady,
Right, and that's the thing to look at this as a whole too. Is they went, if you want to do this from the number standpoint, right? They went 12-5 this year. How many head coaches in NFL history have probably been fired after having a type of record like that? Probably
almost
not.
none.
Probably not many.
Almost none. I can't unless they retired on their own accord or, sometimes relationships turn sour. But I can't think of other than Harbaugh. But Harbaugh hasn't had a successful run with Ravens as the Bills have with McDermott.
Yeah, but I think the Harbaugh thing and even I'm going to include the Tomlin thing in here too is a little bit different, right? Because that just got. They were spinning their own tires.
But again,
4
Tomlin didn't have losing seasons, didn't win any playoff games. McDermott, if you compare the last 7 years of McDermott with Tomlin or Harbaugh, clearly McDermott.
way better, yeah.
Clearly better.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at, right?
So it's unprecedented almost.
It's like those two are very different compared to McDermott to me. Especially the Harbaugh one. I think a lot of us forget Harbaugh was probably going to be fired if it wasn't for Lamar performing in 2018 the way he did. So.
I don't know. It'd be
way.
interesting to look at, see what other coaching firings could be comparable to this. A coach being fired after having 7 consecutive winning playoff seasons, two AFC championship appearances.
Divisional round every single year,
Right.
6 straight years.
What was the final year I know this is more for like me and you, Jim, in this sense, but what was Andy Reid's final year in Philly like? I can't remember what it was record-wise, but like that's the only one that kind of
Well, he was one of
sticks
those
out.
guys that couldn't win the big one. That's
Right.
what they would always say is like, he's a great coach, but he couldn't win the big one. He brought Donovan McNabb to the Super Bowl. Donovan McNabb threw up, and
But in terms of like the consistency of it, like that's the only one that
I
like,
doubt it
sticks
was
out
this
to me.
consistent.
So his last season, they ended 4-12.
Well, never mind.
But over his career, he had 100, or over with the Eagles, he had 193 wins. No, 130 wins, 93 losses.
Yeah, never mind then. Yeah,
But again, if McDermott went 4-12 this year, he would have been fired.
true.
But he
yeah.
didn't. He went 12-5.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, right. That's what I was saying. To me, the only comp would be maybe that, and even then, like I said, like that's, yeah. And I mean, it's not even the same thing.
I can't think of anybody.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It would have made more sense if they fired him after 13 seconds because he was
Yeah.
calling plays. I don't know if you saw on Twitter the last couple of days, former players that used to play for him were calling him out, saying that the Bills did make the right move. Jerry Hughes,
Yeah, I saw the tweet from Jerry Hughes.
said that he didn't return because of McDermott. He didn't resign there. So.
No, and that was my thing. In the days after, I said to like you guys, like this is either like a firing that was 2 years too late or 1 year too early, as it stands right now.
Yeah.
Like it didn't make sense for in the moment.
It's the same move as the New York Knicks with Thibodeau last year.
Yeah.
Except it was a smaller period of time. McDermott over 7, but the Thibodeau brought the Knicks to a place they haven't been in
25 years essentially.
yeah, I mean since the Bulls and Knicks faced off in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. Since the Knicks made their lone NBA championship series since 73.
1970, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again that was just like 1 year. I don't know why it hasn't dawned on me until now, but I can't think of anything in almost all sports that's comparable to someone with as much success as McDermott has had being fired. And you know what? We're starting the Buffalo Bills nation, Mafia fans, fan base was finally starting to get trained to like living in this world where we're great, where we're elite and we're going to win games and we're going to win divisions and we got a great quarterback and all this good stuff. Total, and then it was like that in the 90s for a little bit, when the Bills were going to Super Bowls. But other than that, it's been a laughingstock organization. And so wouldn't it just be like the Buffalo Bills to like take this 7 run of success and you got Josh Allen in the prime of his career, and you just sabotage it again, and then return to 15 years of mediocrity.
I think a pretty good way to maybe put the period on the podcast here, go throw it back to you, Kyle. Would you tell me the anniversary of today is?
On this day in 1991, wide right. Remember when the Bills lost?
Oh, wow, yeah. I remember where I was. I was in a frat house at Syracuse University. I was a freshman. And I was rooting for the Giants.
And I would say they went wide right today.
That's a good way to end it right there.
Yep, pretty fitting. So, on that note, we'll get out of here for now. Don't have an exact set date, obviously, for the next edition of the podcast. We're going to be off for a little bit, though.
Free agency starts March 11th, so it's coming faster than we think. And then the draft. It's going to be a big draft for Brandon Bean.
Yeah, and I think that's probably when you'll see us next is a little bit of a draft preview, kind of see how the offseason is going at that point.
If you can't get enough of us, we'll be back Thursday.
That's true, on the FL1 Sports Podcast. So a lot to look forward to there. So appreciate everybody for tuning into this special edition of Bills Weekly. You can find Bills Weekly and all other FL1 podcasts on fingerlakes1.com, the FL1 YouTube channel, and all major podcasting platforms. Appreciate everybody for making a little bit of time for us today. And as always, let's go Buffalo.